You're here with Lou and Kevin on Bad Dinner Guests.
Ooh, I like that. It's very smooth.
Well, I'm trying to be seductive.
Tonight.
Yeah, to the hearing organ.
Yeah.
Oh.
We're here to tuck you in.
Nah. Because, in all reality, I'm the thing that bites in the night.
Ooh.
So anyway, it is crazy how much people are talking about Pokemon Go. I know.
Yeah, I only spent 3 hours yesterday in a discussion that had a little too much Pokemon Go for me anyway.
Fair enough. I kind of use it as my cigarette break at work now. So that way I can milk the clock. Yeah. Most of the tasks that I do, I can get done within the time. And so, well within the time. Like, half hour, 45 minutes to spare.
Right.
So, I'll just kind of dick around on my phone to procrastinate and spread that proverbial paycheck butter a little bit longer.
Yeah, get your little 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, I don't see it as stealing hours because when my boss allots that amount of time for me, I have that amount of time to work. That's already in the budget.
Yeah, I mean, break time is break time. I get it.
Yeah.
So, I will say this. The one thing I like about Pokemon Go is it is keeping me off of Facebook. So, Thank you for that. Wonderful. It's just I can't really deal with it much. I mean, I've never been a big user of it anyway.
I fuck with it.
I know you do. Trust me, I am well aware. There's not a friend that you have on Facebook that doesn't know that you like to fuck with Facebook.
Right.
You could be on. Actually, we should add that to. We need to do a YouTube sketch of True Lives. I'm addicted to Facebook, starring some alter ego you create where you're actually just posting at the pace that you post. We'll get Nathan on too for Twitter. Nathan with his 11,000 freaking tweets. You guys, you might have a problem, but it's okay because we all have lots of problems.
We do.
That just might be one of them.
But the silver lining is I still take time to do the face-to-face thing with people.
Right. I will give you that.
I don't just gloss over. I don't I talk about I might be like, yeah, man, I caught this fucking rare thing on Pokemon. Yay me.
Yeah.
But then I'll be like, oh, so did you hear about that shit in this place where stuff happened? I don't want to. The thing that jumped to my mind was Nice.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I hear there's a lot of talk for truck regulation now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Well, it's spoons make people fat.
But yeah, I just it was sickening to me how we've gotten to the point now where they're so regular that the bodies aren't even cold, and we're
pushing propaganda.
Yeah, we're pushing it propaganda along. So I'm of the mindset where if you want to be upset about the joke that I just told, well then get upset at all of your politicians for using this on their platform. If it's okay for them to use it to try to bypass my logical thinking and use my emotions to trigger a reaction, then I'll be damned if I'm not going to use it to crack a joke and break that dumbass tension that's been created.
Very well put.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no, because I get it. They're playing the psychological. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why because I made that joke earlier and someone got kind of not really in my face about it. So somebody got a little butthurt about it, and I made that explanation, and the retort was just kind of, whatever, man. It's just thoughtless. I'm like, okay, all right, that's. I know when to walk away from a discussion. But
there's no real winner in that.
There's no real winner in that discussion in that anyway.
Debate.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying I'm right, but
Right.
it's sort of my statement on, like, you know, if politicians are up there making crude jokes about this, it'd be way too soon. But it's okay for them to use it
to play the heartstrings from it.
Yeah, to
push propaganda.
Exactly. To force you into calling for legislation you may not want, or to push you into protest mode and this and that. So I feel like one of the only ways you can bring light to it is to make a really crude joke and have someone get offended and have someone call you out. And then as you're explaining yourself, then boom, that's your only chance to get your point across. Like, hey, it's bullshit. Because when everybody's so tuned in now, they don't.
It's so sad that freedom of speech is seen as a tool that, well, you shouldn't say it if it hurts people's feelings. Well, freedom of speech isn't meant to protect popular thought. It's
exact opposite.
Exactly. You know, and it's really sad that people don't take that opportunity to start the discussion instead of just automatically jumping, down each other's throats.
Right.
I mean, granted, there are some things that push the limits with what one can take, undoubtedly. But I think those are rare, few and far between occurrences, I'd hope, at this point.
So, not to, I got us off on a little bit of a tangent there.
You did.
So I don't want to take up much in the way of when a week or two ago you weren't wanting to discuss really any of the violence.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of with you on that one. So I'll leave it where it lies right now and turn it back over to you because you have a very interesting topic that we've put
in the way that Pokemon Go has hijacked Facebook. I was looking into some actual skyjackings from the 1950s and 60s. This whole D.B. Cooper, FBI closing the D.B. Cooper file this last week. I'm a little interested. I mean, you don't really think about things that happen necessarily that involve that, the history of skyjackings in America. And sometimes people hijack these planes for political reasons, trying to seek asylum in Cuba.
Yeah, that was the most interesting thing I found in the research was some of the reasons behind it.
Yeah.
Wasn't cut and dry at all, honestly. There was a lot of variety there.
Oh, yeah. I think the most frightening one I learned about was Southern Airways Flight 49. There was 31 people on board, and the hijackers used pistols and hand grenades. Jesus, that's terrifying. A hand grenade in a pop can that's flying above the earth at 150 plus miles per hour. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? What? Yeah. That's terrifying. That is truly some terrifying shit.
I mean, the concept on its own is pretty terrifying.
Right.
To be honest, I can, depending on the flight, I've been scared on flights that weren't hijacked. I've been scared because of
turbulence.
Turbulence. Or when I lived down in Florida, there's a tropical storm several hundred miles away. We might have some crazy wind tonight, and I'm like,
right?
Huh? What'd you just say?
Right.
And the other thing I noticed that was very interesting about the history of hijacking was sort of the pace that it happened. It was they didn't happen in the United States for, the first about 30 so years of hijacking occurrences. There was a big push in the 60s and 70s where that was where the majority of them happened. And then you saw it really dwindle again in the 80s and 90s, and then
with the creation of sky marshals.
Yeah, and then
or air marshals.
9/11 happened, and it has never once happened again. And previously to that, I think it had been 7 years before anything had happened.
Right.
Before that, so there was a really, really big gap before the one big one, because that's the one when you think. I'm sure if someone's asked you when you think of American, airplane hijacking, what's the first? That's got to be, I would imagine, the first one that pops. Once you hit if you hit a certain age group, then DB Cooper.
Honestly, I would think it's such a fresher wound that hit more people than DB Cooper, maybe.
Well, absolutely. DB Cooper didn't really.
He didn't kill anybody.
Yeah, he just got away with some money.
Yeah, insured money. I mean, not to say that it's right. I mean, it's just
it's a lot less wrong. That's goes without.
There wasn't. Yeah. You can't really compare the two. Mass murder to stole a few $100,000.
Right. Yeah.
Couple really. It was like $200,000, I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's one of those things. It's just it's insane. It's even crazier when you go on to think about how DB Cooper was never apprehended.
Yeah. Well, you have a theory about that, though, don't you? If you don't, maybe. Yeah, I think you do. If not, I have one that we could entertain that I've heard. I don't adhere to it, but
I like the idea that it was a FBI agent exposing holes in flight security.
We'll go a little bit, elaborate a little bit on that. As far as.
False flag operations.
Yeah, is that what you think it was?
Kind of. Yeah.
A sort of a Project Northwood kind of deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
That document's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it has. And time-wise...
Definitely before 71.
Yeah, I was going to say, it would have to have been... couldn't have been still Project Northwood at that point.
No.
It would have changed names. But so the problem that I have, because you've discussed this, we discussed the possibility of this. We talked about this episode, and I listened to a Clyde Lewis episode recently about DB Cooper and who it potentially could be, and it sort of talked about this whole idea of Dan Cooper being some sort of FBI agent that just sort of was figured out. His theory basically was he was a guy who realized he was going to be a patsy, and so he just decided to jump off the plane with the money, and nobody got hurt in this. And so,
right.
My problem with that is, and my problem with the idea that it could be some sort of false flag that went right or went wrong is that, one, why would the FBI go why would their cover up be? We're just going to continue to investigate this for another 30, 40 years.
Oh, yeah. Almost 50.
And then say, okay, and then we'll finally pull the plug and say, all right, no, we don't need this. So, what about that aspect of it?
I kind of have. Have you ever seen The Wire?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you going to ask me if I've seen Breaking Bad next?
Oh, maybe. Have you? It's excellent. I haven't seen a show like this since The Wire. little Family Guy reference in there too. But no, it's just you see how they'll take a case, an open docket that kind of just can lead them anywhere. Hey, we have these threads to pull at in Louisiana. But we don't, is there any way we can tie it into some DB Cooper stuff to get some DB Cooper funds into our case to put it back to relevancy?
So, okay, so what we're saying here, put that part of the theory, the counterpoint to my point is that, yeah, you think they're just using it sort of as just like a front, just sort of like
a front essentially, like
so like a Swiss Army investigation,
a Swiss Army case, yeah.
Just let's put us wherever you need us, and we'll think of a reason why we can be there.
Yeah.
We have a DB suspect.
Yeah.
In Saskatchewan, so we'll be there.
Right.
Okay, well, you've got me intrigued on that one, and I'm going to try to do some on the fly research here while you know.
Okay.
While we discuss some of these other weird historical stories. What an interesting word choice I made.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to find some reasons to see if there's anything to support your idea, because at the off rip, I'm thinking, well, okay,
that's an interesting conspiracy to throw out.
It's interesting, yes, but do I think it's tangible at this moment?
Right.
Not necessarily, but I'm hoping that. Well, if you can just search it if you want. I mean, unless you want me to. Well, I was going to search it on my computer where I have a keyboard, and it's a little easier than the tablet.
Fair enough.
You're just sticking a friggin' tablet in my face here. Like,
sorry, I'm trying to be accommodating.
I can do it myself. Simon,
don't knock that ball off the counter.
Accommodating. Did you tell me about the 10-year-old boy hijacking? Is that one you came across in your studies? Because I cheated on this. As you know, I had a busy day yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't get a lot of time to do my research, but no, sorry, I said 10-year-old. I said 10-year-old. It's the 14-year-old David Booth.
I didn't.
Who was not charged because
age.
Well, the quote is, to get it exactly right, U.S. Attorney George Klein of Lexington, Kentucky, declined to prosecute Booth, saying the federal government did not have facilities to handle prosecution of juveniles. So, yeah. But that was as much as I got. And it's, granted, I didn't have enough time to pull up any real articles. I just was doing casting the widest net I could there to try to gain
some statistical knowledge.
Because you were wanting to find a number, for the number of hijackings in United States history, and that number in the limited time we had I could not find. So the last resort was finding a list and counting it up by hand. So we came to 31 was by my count.
Okay.
The number of hijacks on soil, and so okay. We'll bypass the 14-year-old in a minute, David Booth, and I've got a little list now of some research to do over here. Tell me about one that you did do some research on. Which was the most bizarre one, or what was there one that was more interesting than the rest? I know a lot of these were people hijacking planes on their way to Puerto Rico and having them fly into Cuba. So I don't know, maybe
there were. Allegedly, a lot of them were communists seeking asylum in Cuba.
Okay.
So they would hijack a plane to go to Cuba because there were no flies to Cuba.
Yes. Okay.
Because of political tensions.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So, but I mean, you've got. Which one was your favorite? I mean, I've seen the notes, man. You're not short on material.
I know. I'm not short on material. I'm just saying. I mean, it's weird to say I had a favorite. I think the one that stuck out the most was actually surprisingly not the D.B. Cooper case. It was, I believe it's Eastern Airlines Flight 1320, 73 people on board. It was from Newark, New Jersey to Boston, Massachusetts, and it was hijacked by a man named John DeVivo. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. DeVivo demanded a stewardess take him to the cockpit of the plane, and in the cockpit, he proceeded to fight with the two pilots. Excuse me, Captain Robert Wilbur. And First Officer James Hartley, DeVivo shot both men. He shot Captain Wilbur in both of his arms once, and he shot James Hartley mortally in the chest, mortally wounding him in the chest, I should say.
Jesus.
Yeah, and then Hartley First Officer Hartley proceeded to struggle the gun away from DeVivo, shooting him 3 times before he died.
Holy shit.
Yeah. DeVivo was down, but not out. He kept trying to make plays at Captain Wilbur.
Wilbur. I'm sorry. Continue. I couldn't.
Captain Wilbur was still, flying the plane, but DeVivo kept making plays to try to get the pilot to crash. So the pilot took the gun and knocked out DeVivo with it. So
that was the goal?
The goal was to literally crash
it down.
Yeah.
That was like, there were a couple of them that I found that were odd to me in the 70s. There was one, a man boarded a flight on its way to California. I can't remember where. Let's say this. Okay, so he boarded a flight to California and hijacked the plane and forced them to fly him home to Arkansas. I don't remember where the plane took off from, but it wasn't Arkansas. So here essentially is a guy who all he really had to do, maybe the line was just so long, or he was dicked around so much at the freaking register or at the gate there that he just said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna take this one into I got this." They're gonna 20-hour layover my ass. We'll see about that. But there were some very odd. There didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to half of these. There was the other one.
It was just kind of copycats that had no real objective.
Yeah, there's the instance.
A bunch of crazy people
in '71 where it was just basically he just said, the claim is that he was just influenced by what you had talked about, people fleeing to Cuba for asylum. He was just influenced by. He's just a copycat. Right. He saw other people had hijacked airplanes, and he's like, "Well, dude, I could, why not?"
Yeah, I mean, I think, what was it? 3 to 5 of them post D.B. Cooper were attributed to copycats at D.B. Cooper.
Wow. So were they all attempted robberies?
Some, yeah. Some would ask for money, and some. I read one where they were influenced by D.B. Cooper, and they were also influenced by another hijacking. So they asked for it was some random $314,000, to where they asked for, they kept it in the hundreds of thousands because of D.B. Cooper, but then they also kept it like a really random number because of another hijacking. It's really weird how people get influenced by something happening like this, and they just think, well, fuck. That sounds like a fucking great idea.
It's why
it's weird.
So upset
I don't get it
about how our media portrays these big events. There are two ends to that, because as obviously we don't agree with censorship,
right?
And so I'm not saying in any way we should be sheltered we shouldn't be seeing these things, but it's the way, when you hear 30 times a day on television, this is the largest mass shooting in American history. When you hear that, and you're somebody who potentially has that issue and is a potential copycat murderer, it's not
that pushes the bar.
Great. Yeah, it's not really great to me. That's not a great button to push. And again, like I said, I struggle just with the very concept of that, because I find myself on both ends of that spectrum, where it's on one hand, I believe if you think it in your mind, you have the right to say it. But I also believe that the decision between what you do and don't say, that does reflect. Yeah, there's a time and a place, and also, that's what makes you. Right. We can't control the thoughts that come in our head, but we can control what we do with those thoughts. And so
right.
I feel like I'm on both sides.
Well, at least that's what self-control is.
Yeah, and so that's the problem that I have with the media, because it's on one hand you want to say freedom of speech, and on the other hand you're like, well, 6 companies own all of 90% of media. So how free is the speech anyway that we're getting? And I feel like I'm trapped in a little box.
Not much at all. I mean, you think, how many times do you see news intros that literally have product placement within the product placement of the show itself?
Oh yeah,
they're selling the show.
You'll see this
within a commercial of a product. Yeah.
Where I see it most often is your local news and medicines.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all of a sudden you'll see a big story about it's flu season coming up, and next thing you know, you're watching 4 freaking NyQuil commercials and like, holy shit.
Oh my god. So
I wonder who paid for the news today, Boy, that's a tough one. And then I'm crazy for saying these things are weird.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, that's weird, right?
Well, and that's
you watch too much TV. You watch too much TV, man. Like, you watch too much. I don't watch any TV.
That's the point. I watched this little TV, and this is what I walked away with.
Yeah.
And oh my god, speaking of product placement and commercials, I saw a great one during everybody's, I think she's one of everybody's favorite murder writers, Angela Lansbury's Murder, She Wrote.
Oh man.
And it was so funny. I couldn't help but think that the order of these 2 commercials should have been reversed, because the commercial I saw was for active adult diapers for the man in his 40s or 50s who still wants to play basketball with his son. And then after that was a commercial for fiber. I think you're supposed to eat the fiber and then put the adult diapers on for then. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Or am I just, too Boy Scout trying to be prepared all the time?
I don't.
Does it take time for the fiber to kick in?
I've never used fiber. I don't know really how it works. I can't pretend that I do. I may have found a lead to your little DB Cooper theory. I think I'm grasping at straws here, but it's our job to just kind of look through it. Oh my god.
Yeah, see?
But, okay, but see, this is the kind of stuff, and I'm going to show this on the screen, because this is the kind of stuff that drives me freaking nuts, man. This is the bullshit that we deal with as people that, don't always buy into the official story. And and then an ad pops up as soon. That's like making me look like a sellout website. Where the heck did this just go? Let's go.
I'm not sure.
You saw what I was talking about.
I did.
Though, right?
It had the picture. Well, and I was actually about to throw into the conversation.
Here we go. There's a picture. And I'm sorry, anybody who will be listening to this later and not watching it, you're not going to see what we're talking about. But I will describe it best to you. This article came out less than a year ago. It's in 2015, and it's got a picture next to DB Cooper of a man who's probably in his 20s or 30s now. Michigan author thinks Grayling grocery store manager may be legendary skyjacker. This can't be the guy. This has to be the guy who thinks he saw DB Cooper. There cannot be.
Right. Well, and it's so funny when you look at, like, it's the description of DB Cooper, and essentially it's your average middle-aged white guy.
Yeah.
From the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Wore a tie, black suit and tie.
Yeah, he was dressed like a man in black. He was dressed like a FBI agent, I suppose. He's all just dressed like a guy who's going out on a business meeting as well. But I see what you're saying, right. And that's the problem a lot of times where you get caught up is that you find like a whole bunch of circumstantial evidence that doesn't quite put a whole picture together. There are things like the fact that he jumped out of a plane suggests that he at least had some military training. I mean, this was the 70s. You could potentially make the argument today that someone could hijack a plane and jump out of said plane and not have any military experience because that's a hobby now. People like to jump out of
Right.
planes and hope that their heart doesn't explode.
Or the chute doesn't break.
That's cool, man. Live it up.
I want to do it once.
I want to do it once too, and it will be how I die. If I get to like 85 and I'm still puttering around this freaking dump, I'm going to I'll start shitting myself and wearing diapers. That'll be the point. It doesn't matter the age. When I have to pay someone else to wipe my ass, then I'm going to go skydiving, and I'm going to do it enough times
so you can go by yourself.
So I can go by myself, and that last time, I'm not pulling that fucking parachute. I'm gonna go out over. I'm gonna pay for some ocean one.
If I can be allowed to add a counterpoint.
Feed the fishes, baby.
If you can go by yourself skydiving, but wouldn't that compensate not being able to go to yourself to the potty?
No, no. And that's the hole in my theory is like, I'm either gonna have to make a suicide pact with a skydiving instructor, or I'm probably not. I'm gonna have to find a different way. I couldn't do the Hunter S. Thompson route though. I could never just like leave a bloody mess for my family to pick up while they're out playing in the yard.
Oh
but
my
I promise
God.
you that if I get to the point where I can no longer control when I piss or shit,
you
better not leave shit around me in the nursing home because my ass
is there get shit on it.
I asked, no, I'm gonna be fine. I'll be that. I'll be. Go back to Fear and Loathing. I'll be the dude sitting in the bathtub listening to Jefferson Airplane, man, just like ready to go.
Check out.
I really got us off track there, but yeah,
a really morbid path.
I had to stop. Yeah, I'm having a good time. And that's the funny thing is, it might be morbid.
Having fun.
Here I am, probably with the biggest smile I've had on my face all weekend. To me, these are fun things to joke about, and I'm a sick bastard. That's fine.
Kevin's defecating corpse.
I can deal with that. You leave the munting out of it.
I wasn't gonna do that. I respect you too much.
Yeah, but
I was gonna have you cremated, and I was gonna grow a marijuana plant in your ashes, like in that movie How High.
All right, so that back to where we were going, because I don't even know how to address that. We'll address that in our post game and our debrief. You got enough.
I like the movie.
Fine, but we're talking about
skyjacking,
not
movies.
We're not out here quoting movies. But what else do you have? Do you have another intriguing story?
Well, actually, now that you brought us back to topic, actually, First Officer James Hartley was the first pilot killed from a hijacking in U.S. history.
Oh, to go back to the John DeVivo case.
Yeah, and DeVivo hung himself in prison before trial.
Now, see, that was one that...
It's interesting because you have a lone wolf.
That fact alone would have made me look deeper into this one.
Right.
Anytime someone kills
quote-unquote
himself
lone
in jail,
wolf hangs himself before trial.
And what did your note say? Did it claim a reason?
No. I don't recall reading anything about mental illness. If you want to try looking for that.
Well, I didn't. Wow. Okay. He survived a suicide attempt at the age of 16. So there. Yeah.
Yeah. He definitely had some mental issues.
You missed the.
I missed some.
The mental illness. Definitely a factor again.
Yeah.
Which I hate.
Which is an all too recurring theme if you look at it.
Yeah. I hate to be that guy who's running out of aluminum foil over here, but it just seems awfully convenient to me. And again, I whatever, I used that term. That's the term I used.
Yeah.
Awfully convenient.
Don't apologize for being yourself, Kevin.
There always has this sort of backdoor. I appreciate that. Always sort of this. To me, I feel like it's the back door to any and all legislation. Anytime anything happens, regardless of what the facts were, let's make sure we toss in the fact that this person was mentally unstable, so that way anytime at any point we need to deem someone mentally unstable in the future, any threat that we have, all we have to do is get a psychiatrist. All we have to do is bring them in for a minor offense, have them see a psychiatrist, have that psychiatrist write what we need, and boom, you can't own a gun anymore. Boom, you can't get certain jobs anymore.
But you also look at how there's actually one of the biggest conspiracies I've ever heard is how the FBI gets people to go out and do things like sleeper cells. And essentially, I want to say I heard this on Coast to Coast years ago. And essentially, this idea is that UFOs aren't real and people get abducted, and that's like a part of the continuation of MK Ultra experiments to where people are quote unquote abducted, given psychological programming, and returned. And the whole experience is meant to seem like an alien abduction. And because most people don't talk about that.
No,
like there's no
in the conspiracy world. It would be William Cooper would be the main guy who I would say, if you're interested in that theory, he's a guy to listen to, because he was a former naval officer who had access to classified files. And when he first became a member of the Truth movement, I don't think that's what it was called back then. When he first became labeled a conspiracy theorist, he was preaching about aliens, and because he had seen the documents, he later would
somewhat recant his
story. He would not somewhat recant it. He went all out 180 degrees, saying that he was convinced in his research that those files were put there purposely in front of him to see if whose side he was on, and that essentially for him to go out, and because they knew what kind of guy that he was, and that he would then go out and spread the lie
morals
of aliens.
Test.
Not even a morals test. They knew, they wanted him. His theory was that aliens are fake, and they wanted him to spread the word that aliens are real. Yeah, so that he believed he was a puppet for misinformation. And the weird thing about him is
show right there.
He was shot to death in his own yard by undercover police that were posing as rowdy teenagers. So he came out he called the cops several times for a noise complaint, walked outside to tell these what he thought were teenage kids to leave and be quiet, and they pulled, and then he got in his truck, tried to run off. They chased him. He ended up somehow driving back to his house and having sort of a standoff with the police, and died there, which was of several things that he ended up predicting that he was right about before he died. He predicted that that's how he was going to die, which either validates him, or if you're on the other side of it, you would say, well, okay, this is always how he was going to die, because that's the way he wanted to do it.
Right.
So you could use that either for him or against him. He's a very interesting character in the world of conspiracy.
He is. I'm sure I've heard of him.
He has hours and hours on YouTube. Some people have taken the time to upload his entire shortwave radio broadcast. Oh. There's something like 130 episode called Mystery Babylon. He starts at the beginning of the inception of time. He talks about the occult history, starting with ancient Egypt and their religion, and then how it comes. Yeah, he starts from the beginning and goes all. I haven't gotten even close through it.
That's crazy.
It's a lot to take in. It's 2 to 3 hours at a time, and it's a lot. It'll kind of make your brain hurt a little bit. And again, without your own research to supplement it, you really don't even know what you're listening to. Kind of like here with us, but
Every time we try to go to Granny's house, we're like, ooh, a path.
Ooh, a piece of candy.
Yeah.
So.
You have candy?
No, I don't have any candy. About our hijacking episode here today. This has been bounced
around the block a few times,
and I don't mind it, because I've been entertained by this conversation. I'm good with it. That's all that matters to me. But you know that I'm a bit of a jerk in that way. But what I want to talk about the hijacking elephant in the room, which is the oddity of 9/11. And it's been almost 15 years now. I feel like we can have an open, honest discussion where people shouldn't be screaming about other people being intolerant or rude or disloyal or un-American. But did you not find it odd that there was this big gap both before and after?
Not necessarily after.
Maybe not necessarily after, but
with the violations of our rights, but
you say not necessarily after. Where was that? I showed you this earlier, but so to me, I get that. So we say that security got better. Is that why? Is that why you're not surprised that hijackings happen afterwards? Is that?
Well, no. I mean, you have to consider the Patriot Act.
Okay.
I mean, if there wasn't, the Patriot Act was terrible. It's been a constant battle with our rights.
Yeah.
Ever since its inception. And as far as events of 9/11 magnitude, we have been fortunate enough to not undergo something like that again. But in this post 9/11 society, with the Patriot Act, the whole Patriot Act thing was supposed to make it, we're gonna sign this Patriot Act, and there ain't gonna be no more shenanigans. That was a terrible George Bush, but it's just such a disappointing president, disappointing leader. Just the whole time era was just fucked.
Okay, fair. That's off point. I think you were going somewhere, and as soon as you brought up him, now you're off.
Kind of sidetracked a little bit. Yeah. Well,
do you know where you're going with it?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I did get sidetracked thinking of how disappointing, life was under George Bush.
Right.
But I think the most disappointing fact is when you think that 9/11 was a scenario that Dick Cheney kind of hoped for. 2 years ago, I mean, he essentially wrote an essay, and I'm not talking about, our Hispanic friend Jose.
You're watching too much South Park.
Yeah. South Park.
Quit stealing other people's jokes.
Yeah, all right. But anyway, he writes this document essentially saying that he needs or wants, I shouldn't say essentially saying, but there's a document saying that for military industrial complex growth in the Middle East, there needed to be a Pearl Harbor event of this generation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's not really a surprise. That shouldn't be news, I guess, at this point. I mean, some people might hear that and be like, what? No way. But
Dirty Dick Cheney.
You're absolutely right. So where you started going and where I will pick up, and because it's right along the lines of where I wanted to go anyway, was, well, you say the Patriot Act was supposed to make us better. What?
My bad.
And I will I have one example as an argument for I'm frustrated. I'm a little frustrated with you right now.
My bad, dude.
I mean, I'm in the middle of talking, and you're like, here, read the. I know you're trying to talk into the microphone, but read what I wrote. It's important. You have to read it right now.
That was the video that you pointed out to me the other day.
Oh, fair enough, but
trying to get that. I didn't think it would derail you like that. My bad.
I mean, yeah, sorry. Just trying to form a thought over here. So there have been occasions still of things not working, like case in point, Kyle Odom.
Okay.
A guy that a lot of people don't know about that shot Ted Cruz's pastor. Well, it's not, might not have been Ted Cruz. He's the pastor that spoke at the Ted Cruz rally in Iowa, was shot 6 times, point blank range, is alive as far as I know, still doing well. Kyle Odom then was put on a no-fly list and proceeded to hop on a plane from, I believe, Boise, somewhere in Idaho, and fly into Washington, D.C., where he was finally arrested in front of the White House gates as he was trying to climb the fence and threw a flash drive and some sort of manifesto into the White House lawn. So
I remember that.
Yeah, so, and again, that's just one, and of course, to help make my point, I pick on the one, so I'm trying to be open here, like
right.
Just saying, obviously, you can make the other side of this argument, but you look at things like the train bombing, 7/7. You look at just pick something that's happened in France in the last 2 years. Yeah, what did I say?
Oh, you just said the train bombing in 7/7.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then anything that's happened in France over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Brussels is supposed to be like Big Brother capital of the world. What happened in Brussels would be, imagine a donut shop and a movie theater getting bombed in fucking Langley, Virginia. You'd be like, huh? Wait a minute. A, how does that happen where you guys are? And B, why did you blow up a freaking park when your actual enemy is 4 blocks away and you could have actually done some real damage? But, what? Yeah. That's neither here nor there. But what I'm saying is these things that were put in place to make us safer, they're not working.
No.
They're not working the way they were supposed to work. And granted, you can say, well, there were all these times when they did work, but okay, and that's fair. All right, yeah, there's times some of these measures I'm sure have stopped other things from happening. But we look at, I use this point all the time with you when we debate 9/11 conspiracy. My whole problem is NORAD never missing an interception that entire year. They just completely shit the bed on the same day. Again, not their fault, because they were on war games. They were flying over Alaska for some war game where the Russians had decided to invade Alaska. They're sent people from Carolina getting sent over to Texas. They were everywhere. Right. There's that footage of somebody saying,
fortifying the nation for an invasion from that direction.
Well, it's not at all what I was saying.
Well, I just meant with the placement of troops.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. I thought you were trying to finish my sentence, and I was no, that's not at all what the guy was quoted as saying.
I mean, you essentially had everybody shifting in an arc out from that area.
Yeah, well, they were running drills where one of the drills that day was a plane getting flown into the Pentagon, and so there's the famous newscast of someone calling for interceptors. We need to get, we need a couple F-16 scrambled, and the guy's response is this real world or a drill? He's like, no, this is not a drill. This is real life. We need to know what to do. And then you hear him say, looks like everyone just left the room right now, so I'm going to have to get back to you. And then he's like, well, you better get to somebody because we got to make a decision here in about 5 minutes. And that's paraphrasing, but that's kind of how it went down. And it's just, so to me, and I didn't mean to bring it in full circle like that, but we started talking about hijackings, and when we looked at the number, right. I told you when you brought this up, I was like, there's no way I'm not going to be able to talk about 9/11 because I know you looked at almost all the other ones,
right?
And I knew.
Well, and honestly, let's face it, sorry to cut you off, man, but if you grew up in this time period and don't have this opinion of what happened, then you weren't paying attention, which is very sad.
Right. Well, so yeah, I'll digress from that. It's the anomaly. The stat that I wanted to bring up was just
what was it? 1 in 6.5 million?
1 in 16.5 million departures, or one terrorist incident every 11 billion miles flown. So
11 billion miles. That is a long distance.
Yeah. So, yeah, 20 every 21 incident every 27 million. And again, this is all. I didn't crunch these numbers. Okay, This is all off of an article on a website. So
fair enough.
Take that for what it is. But it's just one of those things where we're expected to believe this astronomical anomaly happened, and it was just all one great big fucking coincidence that it all happened to work perfectly. And and I know I kind of went the long way around to say that, but I guess it's what lets me keep an open mind towards your DB Cooper theory. Because even though when I look at the stuff, I don't think, I'm not like, oh yeah, that's how I see it. I definitely think that's how it went. It's just when you look at some of these, and especially 9/11 is the big one where you're just like, well, man, there's a lot of stories that can't be answered. If you believe, so you can't on one hand believe that there's some weird stuff going on one,
right?
Or it brings them together.
I like George Carlin's joke. I have one rule: don't trust the government. Don't trust the official. That's paraphrasing.
And I also feel like George Carlin, I think
said a lot of more truths.
Yeah,
that were discounted as jokes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily that he was a comedian. I think people just paid a lot of money to hear.
He was more of a satirist.
Yeah. Because a lot of times it wasn't even necessarily satire. A lot of times he's just yelling at you or making fun of you.
Yeah.
Like, you're not. There's a club. They own everything. You're not in it. There's not satire there. Satire would be.
Having a play.
It would be a play on it and be sort of on the nose with it. In the opposite direction, be just sort of hyperbolic to the point where you're obvious. But he just flat out was open about it.
Right, like Gallagher squishing watermelons in your face.
Watermelons of knowledge.
Yeah.
You having a technical breakdown over here?
No. Just life.
Well, I mean,
stuff.
Should we wrap this up? Do you have more things?
I think it's a place to wrap it up if you think so.
I am fine with it. I think
all right.
If you want to wrap it up, the longer we drag it on, the more painful it's going to be.
Yeah.
At this point, now that we've mentioned it, people have probably switched to the next podcast anyway.
Yeah.
For anyone still hanging around, we want to say thank you and good night. Check out the rest of this YouTube channel. We had a big premiere Sunday. We've got some new shows, new material for you guys to listen to. And Lou and I will be back next Sunday with Nathan. Hopefully he's still coming. We're going to be talking about Waco, Ruby Ridge, and a history of robot police. Ooh, yeah, you didn't know they were real-life RoboCops. Well, you did now.
Well,
but
yeah.
You might not know how long ago they've been in play.
About a decade?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out next week.
I think about a decade.
Nighty-night.